Hey, welcome everyone to another Pac-12 live chat show where you guys, the orphans of the Pac-12, are given a voice in the world of college football. Again, we know there's great shows like Big Ten Pete's ACC show, and you can throw a rock and hit any SEC show out there. But this is the place where all of you Pac-12 fans can come join us anytime to talk about your team. We've got a lot of great games to talk about that just happened this week, as well as week 2 and week 3 have some great matchups we'd like to talk about with you. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the Streamyard link in. We're going to see a little bit backwards right now. Tony's having a little bit of trouble, technical trouble. So we're going to do our show actually in reverse. I'm going to bring you guys on, and we can talk about the previous week or any matchups you have coming up. So let me drop this in. And feel free to join me in that link right there. So overall, I think the Pac-12 did a great job representing themselves. We did really well. That game, the Utah game, is the one that really is kind of the backbreaker for us. We did really, really well in that game, and it just seems like, Cam Rising did the inexplicable. The one thing he couldn't do is throw that pick, which was a bit of surprise. A veteran guy like Rising to make that throw on second down really was a dagger. But let's see what you guys think. Let's go ahead and bring in our first person, which is my favorite Bruin. What's up, Chris?
How's it going?
Good, man. You guys did well.
Defined well.
Okay, you guys had a very, very sketchy start, but then DTR looked great. Really classic DTR, doing a lot with his feet.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go like game by game and how detailed you want to get, or if you're doing that later, if you want to talk more generally about the conference, but I'm happy to do either one.
Sure. Absolutely. Again, remember that the format of this show really is about Tony and I were sitting back and we were talking about the fact that, there just is not a voice for us Pac-12 fans. And so what this forum really is, we're doing it in reverse. Tony usually has, he has amazing graphics.
Right. That's what I said. I don't know if you want to talk more generally now and then break it down as we if we're doing it backwards, and we do that part later. That's all I'm asking. But I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I can get into it.
Yeah, let's go ahead, and if you want to go ahead and just your thoughts in general, how do you think the week went for the Pac-12? Then we can do that.
The conference as a whole. I mean, Oregon got blown out, obviously, but that's against literally the defending national champion, right? I know that they have, every year is different, but it's not like they lost to some middling team. And then Utah looked like the better team in that game, I thought, for much of the game, and lost on the road to what people think is not a great Florida team, but they might be better than people thought. And you can't just go across the country and expect to win games all the time, no matter how good you think you are. And they're an interception in the red zone at the end of the game away from winning. And then the other team that lost is Colorado, who is, frankly, just not very good. And so, I mean, you look at what the Beavers did and what the Wildcats did, and if you think that the conference isn't, is terrible because two teams went into SEC country and lost to teams that are now ranked, that's silly.
And I agree. I mean, I think one thing has been holding the Pac-12 back for a while, right, has been quarterback play. I mean, we have been the cradle of quarterbacks for ages, but recently it's been a dry spell. And I'm really thinking with the quarterbacks we have now coming in, Rising, Caleb Williams, McKee, DTR, Cam Ward, these Delora at Arizona. These guys these are quality quarterbacks that could start almost anywhere in the country. So I'm really happy with that edge of it being sorted out. I'm still really stinging from the Ute game, no more so than probably Larry. Larry, want to give your thoughts on what happened there?
Oh, that Anthony Richardson is a lot faster in person than he looks on TV. And he's smooth. So I was 10th row, and so it's almost like just a perfect angle to see. You can just barely see over the players. In his transition, they ran read option. They weren't doing a lot of RPO. It was more read option. than RPO, and he's pretty smooth, if that makes sense. And so they were getting us up the middle, and we stopped that, and he got us on the edge. But when we went for that 2-point conversion, I said, don't go for it. Just take that extra point, and we would have won by 1. We would have just ran to get a good spot for the kicker and kicked the field goal and got out of there. You know, if we would have took the 4 easy points, not went for it on 4th down, and took the extra field goal, they would have been trying to onside kick to get, to win that game. If you think about it, if we would have just took the easy points, yeah. So
where was the ball? I can't really remember. It was about the 5-yard line. Where was the ball?
It was first and goal from the 6 with 28 seconds, and that stadium went silent. It was like they knew they were going to lose, because that offense, 28 seconds, 3 chances. How did you feel, Tim, when they got down to the 6 with like almost 30 seconds? You're like, oh, Utah's got this. Yeah,
you give me that. Listen, if you'd have gone into that game yesterday telling me, okay, tell you what, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give Utah the ball, first and goal, 28 seconds.
At the 6.
Yeah, and they're down 3. Right? You take that, and of course you take that. Right? Literally, Rising did the one thing he couldn't do. Even if you guys a couple tosses in, he throws that one away and takes another shot and misses that one. You kick the extra point. You kick the easy field goal, and you're going to overtime. I don't know how that overtime is going to work out, obviously,
right?
Because it really looked like the momentum had partially shifted. It did. It seemed to me like Utah was running that game, but then that 4th quarter. Yeah, they kind of, it just seemed like they were moving especially on that last drive. It looked like Flores really moving the ball. So how the extra time goes, but to watch that on 2nd down, true. Maybe I see him forcing on 3rd down, forcing one in, but to force that throw on 2nd down was just painful to see.
Yeah, because we could have easily, if he would have thrown that out of bounds, you still got, what was it, 20 seconds?
Oh yeah, there was time for all your plays.
There was time. Maybe Kyle, the way he was playing, he might have tried to throw it all 4, which I kind of get, because, why would you go to overtime when you actually have the one play that you might actually have to win it in overtime? So in reality, really, you probably should try to throw it in on all 4 downs and not give them a chance to even put their offense on the field to put another point up. So, yeah, they should have. Cam knows better. He's a smart quarterback. That's actually what makes him one of the best QBs is that. But after the game was probably the worst part. Like losing in a close one in Gainesville, it hurt. But man, I'm telling you what, there was a few chat sessions I had been in, and there were people saying, you better get ready to throw down. And I was like, yeah, our youths are going to, and they were like, no, fan to fan. They're not lying. They're in your face after you lose, screaming obscenities in your face when you're just walking. Classless. It was just classless. So.
Yeah, you gotta remember those. The fans are gonna be fans, and I think that was a hard fought game, and you guys deserve to walk away with that win. The taste in my mouth after that game was the same taste I had previously when I watched West Virginia find a way to lose that game on that interception. It was that same feeling I had where the team that looked like they were controlling the game most, or if not the entire game, and was on their way to winning, just found a way to lose. And unfortunately, Larry, I think that's exactly what happened to Utah.
Yeah, I think that hindsight, Utah's still as good as they were when they left last year. You know what I mean? Like end of the season, it's still, the team's still as good as they were, if that makes sense. So that gives you hope. You're like, okay, it's not like we really fell down a notch. Our linebackers have got to get more experience. That showed up in the game. That's where they got us. But in all, it's still a really good game.
Yeah.
So
Utah season is certainly not over just because they lost that game.
No. Actually, I left my hotel and it was almost halftime. of the Oregon game. And I mean, I don't know how many Oregon fans we got on here, but I just went, I don't see Utah having any. It's almost like the championship game. It's like it's the same Oregon and it's the same Utah team. If they were to play today, I think I mean, that's just me. Oregon's got some stuff to work out. To me, that hurt the conference. Utah losing hurt, but what Oregon getting smacked around like 3 points, they looked horrible in that game.
Yeah, I think they've got a lot of issues on offense. Well, but I guess if it's any silver lining for you, it's vindication of how you guys played. The fact that you guys only dropped to 13, and they placed correctly right in front of you. A Florida team, which again, I think. See, here's the thing: a lot of people aren't giving. I think the problem was a lot of people weren't giving Florida enough credit. But like you said, Anthony Richardson looks incredibly improved on this season to season. I saw a huge jump in his game.
Oh yeah,
and I think that their season is going to go a long way wherever he takes them. But if you guys want to talk about the Oregon game, we can pivot to that. Tony, how you doing with your audio?
I think so. Is it working now?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, we're having to have some little adventures here, guys. Sorry, this Streamyard site is absolutely just not working tonight. So it's been kind of an adventure.
Well, I was lucky to pull in. I grabbed Chris and Larry real quick to help us out and get started while you're trying to earn that.
So, guys, sorry about that for the delay. But yeah, keep talking about this game because this is certainly one of the big things we want to talk about.
Yeah, no, we covered the Utah game in detail. I guess the second game we can't talk about if you guys like to. Chris, were you able to watch the Georgia Oregon game? Again, if anyone's been on here or anyone in the late night chats in the Discord, that I've been saying that I was really worried about that Oregon game from the go. Everyone knows I'm not a Bo Nix fan. I didn't think they really upgraded themselves by going from Brown to Nix. And one thing I was really kind of disappointed was in just the overall that they look slow. I don't know what, but they just sideline to sideline. The Ducks look slow. They were able to.
Georgia might also just be fast.
What's that?
I said Georgia might also just be really fast.
But Georgia's really fast. But there's a lot of other fast teams. There's fast teams in the Pac-12. I don't know if anyone's seen our receivers, but it's not going to be any easier when they go to other teams.
I understand it's different dudes, but last year's Georgia defense was like the fastest thing I've ever seen on a football field. And I get it that it's a different team and a lot of those guys are gone, but I don't know if Oregon. And to be completely honest, I have to be honest with you. I was at a hotel pool in Miami watching UCLA on my iPad, and Georgia Oregon was on at the bar, but it wasn't my main draw of attention because. Unfortunately, Oregon didn't give me a reason to pay a lot of close attention. So I looked up everywhere, but I'm not the best person to speak on that game specifically.
Should we dive into this week?
Let's do it. So yeah, later on, we guys will, if you want to call in and talk about your team, and you can brag about how they did, or you can also, vent a little bit if you want to talk about last week. But we'll be done a little bit later in the show. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, and we want to chat. We want you guys to chat about the teams. We're going to quick hit each of the teams in the Pac-12 because there's some interesting games coming up. But then we want you guys to chime in and chat about what you have going on. Larry and Chris, you guys are welcome to stay. We're going to quick just move you backstage really fast and chat about what we have going on. So, Tim, what a week we're about to have here in the Pac-12.
Yeah, some great games coming up. I do like some of the teams that were playing cupcakes last week are really moving into some difficult games. We still have some cupcakes on the menu for some Pac-12 teams, but I'm excited. I'm only worried about two. I know we talked about earlier. There's two games I'm really worried about in general, but I feel confident for the rest of the games, the rest of the slate.
Well, we kind of talked about it beforehand, and we kind of grouped them up. And there's about 5 Pac-12 teams we think are facing some easy wins. We've got 3 teams that are involved in some big games, 2 teams that we think are some great unknowns, and 2 teams that might be likely disasters. So whichever one you guys fit in, we want to chat up with you guys about where you think that is. Just a quick hit. We've got easy wins. We think we're going to see probably, Oregon and Eastern Washington, Washington and Portland State, UCLA, Alabama State, Cal, UNLV, and Utah versus Southern Utah. Big games. We've got our first conference game coming here, USC at Stanford. Then we've got a huge showdown of Oregon State and Fresno State. Unknowns, Arizona, suddenly resurgent. Number 8, I think, on Mark Rogers' top 25 that makes sense. We've got Arizona State and Oklahoma State, which is going to be a good one. And then heaven knows what we're going to see. Washington State goes into Camp Randall to jump around, and Colorado faces Air Force. So it's going to be real interesting. Tim, should we hit our quick ones first?
Sure. Let's do that.
Let's take a look. All right, Tim. What do you think? We've got at Autzen, Oregon and Eastern Washington. Is Oregon out for revenge?
I think Oregon's going to be mad. I think everyone forgot they went up against against the defending national champions. There's a lot of athletes on the Oregon team that weren't able to shine in that game, but I'm thinking against the competition, Eastern Washington, I would not want to be one of the Eastern Washington players this year. There's going to be some really angry linebackers for sure that are looking to erase the taste in their mouths that they had last week.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to be quite an interesting one and maybe pretty rough for Eastern Washington. Next up to bat on our easier ones, Washington, suddenly resurgent. They found an offense. They found a defense. They looked great last week. And now they've got Portland State at home on a game so kind of meaningless that it's not even on the Pac-12 network. It's on the Pac-12 network Washington edition. So that'll be interesting. Tim, what's going to happen to Portland State when they go into Husky land, into the dog pound?
Washington looked really good last week on both sides of the ball. Asa Turner had 2 interceptions. It was overshadowed by USC's interceptions. Then Penix threw for 350 yards, something like that. He's really hooking up with McMillan, the receiver. That he must have at least 2 or 3 touchdowns as well. I think this is going to be a snoozer, and Washington should win very easily.
It is. And a special shout out, as Zach points out, Dubs is going to be back in the house. All right, next up on the bat, UCLA, Alabama State. Now, this is one that I think is really interesting. I don't know if you guys know, this is actually a pretty historic game. This is actually the first time that an HBCU has ever gone into the Rose Bowl. And so it's a really, really neat opportunity for the whole HBCU community, for the Black community in LA. It's going to be a big deal at the Rose Bowl. They're bringing out all of the majorettes and the bands and the cheerleaders and the dancers are all going to be there from Alabama State. So I don't know if the game's going to be any good, but guys, tune into the Pac-12 network if you can, or stream it or steal it or whatever you have to do to watch, because I think it's going to be a pretty cool show off the field. But Tim, what do you think is going to happen on the field as the Bruins take on the Hornets?
I'm seeing a lot of Charbonnet. He's just going to run the ball. DTR was all we were talking previously with Chris about this. DTR is going to be DTR. He looks fairly accurate. They got off to a slow start against. Sorry, I'm blanking out on the team.
Bowling Green. It's easy to blank out.
Oh, yeah,
nobody saw it in person, and nobody saw it on TV.
I did. I only caught the highlights. I didn't see the whole thing, but they started out slow, right? Some special teams gaffes, but they got rolling. And again, with athletes that they have, DTR and Charbonnet, I really think again that they're just going to run the ball heavily and should take care of this game easily.
Now, last week UCLA set a historic attendance record. Tim, do you think are they going to set another historic attendance record this week?
Well, their student body, I believe, is still not in session, right? So. It's gonna be difficult. Hopefully it's not gonna be as warm. They're gonna get out there, but I do think again the fact that it's historic for Alabama State being there with their wonderful band and everything. I'm hoping that's gonna bring some more fans out to the Rose Bowl.
I hope you're right, because it is going to be a historic game. But wow, guys, that was pretty brutal to watch UCLA break their all-time lowest attendance record. But in all fairness, I mean, given the huge heat wave and the opponent of Bowling Green, if I was in LA, I probably wouldn't have gone either. All right, next up to bat, we've got Cal, who struggled a little bit against UC Davis before putting them away, bringing host to UNLV, who was been pretty brutal. What's going to happen here at Memorial Stadium?
Yeah, again, I think Cal, Wilcox this year, I don't know the name of the quarterback. Do you remember the quarterback transfer they got from the Big Ten? Can't hear you. They were able to throw the ball. The big problem, with Cal has been their offense. They always had a good defense, and I'm hoping that some fused quarterback play might actually help them. But you don't want to be so bad. Again, this is on that stack of games that we're just going ahead and put in the win column.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and it certainly better be if Cal has any hope of a good season. And then the Utes, who we talked about, I think the doctor's coming to town to help them with a little bit of recovery in the form of Southern Utah, who's coming in to play them at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Any chance here, or is this going to be over pretty quickly?
That's a quick W.
I think so too. Utah is going to look to get some revenge and warm up for their other big games coming up. Now, the real big games. We got two big ones. Tim, first, you're my favorite, the Trojans and the Cardinal, and then what I think is really going to be the game of the day, the Beavers and the Bulldogs. Let's start off, Tim. USC-Stanford. We're going to be talking about this one a lot later with our callers, but what's your quick take on the Trojans heading up to the farm?
My quick take is the fact that this is not the same Stanford we saw, earlier last decade. This is not a team that's going to beat you up on both sides of the line. Matter of fact, I was kind of shocked when I saw this stat. They were in the 120s in both in their rush offense and defense last year. I mean, really poor on the line play. So the one thing I have going to this game, this season with USC is how will USC's interior defense stand up against a good rush attack? They do have a great running back in the fact that they have Emmitt Smith's son, EJ Smith, as the running back. Kid had like a 95-yard touch or 85-yard touchdown run last week. He can get loose, but their other two starting tailbacks were transferred out. One of them, which was Austin Jones, who came to USC. Anything can happen. I mean, if anyone's ever watched a USC versus Stanford game, this is our oldest rival that we have. Anything's possible, and I will never ever again say that I think USC is going to beat Stanford, because I did that once, literally almost promised it to my son, and well, they lost in one of the largest, if not the largest, upset of all time. So
it was, at the time, it was the largest upset of all time. It's going to be a great game. But guys, we've got something special for you, because we just thought that we should have, when we preview USC Stanford, we always have plenty of USC people, but we need something more. We need some Stanford folks. So on Friday, we have something special coming for you. We are going to preview Stanford, but we're going to bring somebody from Stanford in to do it. So we thought, who do we want to get from the Stanford community? And guys, tell us in the chat, who should we have gotten? We thought, do we want the Google founders? Do we want the GM CEO? Do we want Christian McCaffrey, Chelsea Clinton, former Stanford player Senator Cory Booker? Do we want Sandra Day O'Connor, Condoleezza Rice, Rachel Maddow? Who from the Stanford community should we have? Who do you guys think? Okay, well, I see you guys. Who should we get? Okay, you're giving us Harbaugh. Harbaugh was good. Yeah, Dr. Sally Ride. We could have gotten Tiger Woods. We could have gotten Stanford's finest, convicted felon Elizabeth Holmes. We could have gotten John Elway. Who should we get? Well, I'll tell you, we decided actually on a young entrepreneur, Jordan Zietz from Stanford. He helped found Game Reef, and then founded one of the largest esports leagues in the country for high school kids. And the reason that we're bringing on Jordan, and he's coming here on Friday, is because he's also the 44th Stanford Tree. That's right. On Friday, we're going to bring you a special update for The Tree, a pregame chat on Stanford and USC. So, guys, keep your eyes out. Set your notifications on the Voice of College Football's USC channel, because we are going to have a special live pregame preview chat with himself, the 44th Stanford Tree. It's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, the guy's totally awesome. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, you should. It's DA Stanford Tree, DA Stanford Tree. Absolutely hysterical. And I'll tell you, he was taunting us a little bit, telling us how much he misses Clay Helton. So we'll see what he has to say on Friday. So keep your eyes peeled. All right, now on to Go Tree, or what? Gary, it could go either way. He's definitely a fun follow on Twitter, guys. Now, Tim, the big game I think is going to be awesome that I can't wait to see is Oregon State at Fresno State. The Jake Haener Touchdown Club is going bananas. Guys, they say this may be the biggest game and the biggest crowd ever at Fresno State. As a lot of you guys know, Oregon State is completely rebuilding their stadium this year. It's only like 18 or 20,000 seats or something like that. So they're actually traveling to Fresno, and people are saying unquestionably with the standing room seats, it's going to be the biggest crowd to ever see a game in Fresno. Tim, can the Beavs do it?
Yeah, I'm just shocked to hear a Pac-12 team going to Fresno State. That's just something new to me. But I think
that.
Huh?
We're not used to that for sure.
No, not used to that at all. I really think that Jonathan Smith has it running out there. He's shown the last couple of years he's building something special up there in Corvallis. They've got a great offensive line, and I really do believe that they are going to make some waves in the Pac-12 North. They are actually right now, along with Washington, going to put some pressure on Oregon this year. I really do think, just with the talent and the coaching up there, it's going to be interesting to see an old Pac-12 coach, and Jeff Tedford, who was with Cal for years, will be the coach for Fresno State. I think Jake Hayner's a special talent. He showed UCLA last year. He's a gamer, and this one could be a close one. I do think, though, in the end, that Oregon State's offensive line is going to take charge in this game and is going to power them to victory.
I think you're right. I hope you're right. I think it's going to be quite a game. You know, I love all my Beav fans and friends, but I'll tell you, I really think that Fresno State is a good team. And I know they're certainly capable of winning this game. Jake Hayner's awesome. It's going to be something to see, guys. Definitely check that out. It's on CBS Sports Network, actually, in that real late window. So it's going to be a lot of fun late at night. And if you're part of Mark Rogers' Patreon channel, we will all be hanging out and sort of watching it together. And we hope you'll join us. Fresno State's a great team. Now, a couple of great unknowns, and that's because we don't know what to think of these teams. These were two of the Pac-12's biggest dumpster fires the past few years. Arizona State, who just has burned up everything imaginable, and Arizona, who has won, one game in 2 years? We both sort of figured, are they going to be terrible? Are they going to be good? They've certainly done a lot to improve, and they both blew everybody out of the water last week. Arizona won a big game against San Diego State to spoil the opening of Snapdragon Stadium. And Arizona State, who we all kind of wondered what was going to happen when they played NAU, just wiped them off the floor. So we got big games, starting with, first on the bat, Mississippi State at Arizona. It's going to be late night, Pac-12 on FS1, 11 p.m. kickoff. The SEC comes into the desert. Is Desert Swarm back, or is it going to be more cowbell?
Yeah, I really wish this game had been played maybe a year from now, because I do like what Jed Fish has going on down there in Tucson. The biggest get for them in the offseason was Jaden DeLora, who's an amazing quarterback. Those of you guys familiar with the Pac-12 know him from up when he was up at Washington State. He's an amazing quarterback, and he has a great connection with, and I'm forgetting the guy's name, another transfer that just recently came in. He just lit it up last week. But then there's also McMillan, and who's a great, big, tall receiver that I think is going to have a breakout year as well this year. Unfortunately, I just don't think they have the athletes that are going to, especially in the trenches, to take on a team, an SEC team, even if it is Mississippi State. So, unfortunately, it's the one I think we may drop.
It's certainly going to be an interesting one. I'm not sure what to make of it, because I would have said earlier in the season that Arizona would just be, demolished. But who knows what we're going to see here? It's going to be something interesting.
Thank you, LBC. Thank you. Yeah, it was Jacob Cowing, Tony. That's the guy I was thinking of. The receiver that hooked up time and time again with DeLora last week. So let's hope he can get hot. Yeah,
we're going to see what happens. And then, this one, again, if you'd asked me a couple weeks ago, I said it would have just been a rout. We've got Arizona State heading to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. Now, this is some interesting realignment things here. Some of the Big 12 homers keep hoping Arizona State will go to them. People talk about the fact that Oklahoma State has 3 times in the past dozen years tried to join the Pac-12. So who knows what's going to happen here? But Oklahoma State's number 11. They played Central Michigan, and they controlled the game, but they gave up an obscene amount of points. Won the game 60-something to 40-something. Not pretty. Some really, really, really weak defense throughout the game from Oklahoma State, even though it wasn't really in doubt, to a ho-hum Central Michigan team. Can Arizona State do this? Can they extinguish the dumpster fire that Herm's been running?
Well, as much as a dumpster fire as it was last year and then the offseason into this year, they had a great defense last year. I know they lost some players. Again, USC was recipient of one of their great linebackers, but overall, they're still appeared to be a very solid defense. You know they're going to be ready. What I'm looking at is, you said Oklahoma State gave up a lot of points, and that right here, that's talking about Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles going to the other OSU. Oh, I did say the other OSU. The issue is really going to really can they stop the offense? And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they can, but their defense did not impress last week.
Yeah, no, they certainly did not, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. So leaving Stillwater, it's going to be quite a game. Again, Arizona State, by the way, guys, some people ask about realignment questions. Arizona State, who is run by President Michael Crow, one of the most influential figures in Arizona education, he is about the king of Mr. Pac-12. So, the people that keep, uttering nonsense, they don't want to go anywhere. Now we got some rough times.
Emory Jones, I think Emory Jones will be the difference in this game. If he plays, he showed some flashes last week, and he's a great athlete. If he can take advantage of that reeling Cowboy defense, then that's going to be the key to that game. And I'm hoping that we could squeak out that one with a win.
We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Tony, I think you're right. We may see a shootout alert going there. We could, guys, I think it's kind of exciting. The desert used to mean something. When you went into the Valley of the Sun, you went in and you faced the desert swarm down in Tucson. Those of you guys are a little older, remember when that meant something. And so maybe it's going to mean something again. Now let's talk about what might be some rough times. So at Camp Randall Stadium, we've got, kind of interesting, kind of a fun welcome. 2 new CEOs. UCLA's law dean, Chancellor Mnuchin, is now the chancellor at UW. And then Chancellor Chilton is now the new chancellor at Washington State. So 2 really just awesome ladies taking over, both Pac-12 blood. So that's going to be, it's just kind of a fun little twist. We've got, 2 our Pac-10, our queens of college football from the Pac-12 facing as the Badgers go and try to see if Washington State can jump around. I don't know, Tim, what do you think? Is there going to be jumping by the Cougs, or is it going to be kind of ugly?
See, this is why we need someone in the commissioner's office, someone say, okay, settle down Washington State. Washington State needed an interception late in the game in the end zone in order to seal a victory against Idaho. So I'm not sure how confident I am going. Now, they do have the kid Cam Ward from Incarnate Word, who transferred in, has made that offense really exciting, right? And they brought his coach with him doing the offensive play calling. It was fun to watch. Is that good? We're talking about a Wisconsin team that maybe take a little bit step back on defense from last year, but this is not going to be Idaho. And unfortunately, I think this one might get ugly.
Yeah, in their defense, Idaho, guys, for some of you guys who don't know that, is an old school rival of Washington State. They're actually only 10 minutes apart. They're about 8 miles or so apart, both right there, each on either side of the state borders. They're actually closer together than USC and UCLA, and much closer than Stanford and Cal. So that was a big old school Pacific Coast Conference rivalry game we saw last week. But yeah, Washington State is certainly looking up, but I don't think they're looking up to the point that they're going to be able to do anything in Camp Randall. Zach, I think you're right. Badgers big. Now, Tim, here's our actual dumpster fire. I don't know if I've seen anything in the Pac-12 as bad as I saw Colorado just get whipped by what looked like a pretty awful TCU team last week. And they just came in and just pushed them all around Folsom Field. It was kind of a disgrace to the era of, Neuheisel and Jeremy Bloom and Gary Barnett and Coach Mack and everybody else. So what is going to happen when they go to play Air Force? Because Air Force is pretty good.
Yeah, along with the Cougs, this one's going to be pretty ugly for different reasons. Until Colorado shows me that they can actually sustain a drive on offense, they can actually show me something, a pulse on offense. Unfortunately, they're going to continue just to be, just on the losing side of games. Then definitely even this one's going to be kind of a one on the chin for the Pac-12, but I see Air Force winning this one in a laugher as well.
Yeah, I sadly think you're right. I think it'd be awesome for Colorado, but Air Force is probably going to be the Colorado State champions here this year because they got quite a team. So, guys, that is sort of a quick wrap-up of what we've got coming this week in the Pac-12. Now, we want to hear from you guys. Tell us, what do you think is going on? Let's put the link here in the chat because we want you guys call in. Fill us out. There you go. It's already there. If you guys want to hit that StreamYard link, we'd love to chat with you about what you think is going to go in the Pac-12. And if you're from a team facing the Pac-12 this week, give us a call. We want to chat. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you guys are thinking is going to happen here. All right. Shall we bring back? We had TBM and Larry real quick. We want to hear your two teams games this week. TBM, talk to us about the Bruins.
Sure. I don't think that what's going to happen this week is as interesting as what happened last week, but if you want to talk about Bama State real quick, yeah, I mean it's a 50-point spread or something. What matters on what happens on the field isn't going to be much of a contest, but the USC people in this room will know this, and if Will's watching as a Notre Dame fan, he'll know this. There used to be a stat that UCLA, USC, and Notre Dame were the only schools that had never played an FCS program. I think it's a cool thing to be able to say, but I also think it's something that I think outside of those three fan bases, I don't know if anyone even knows that or cares, and for us to lose that streak is, I think, an okay thing considering who we're playing. I'm excited for an HBCU to come in and get that exposure. Granted, there might not be a lot of people there again, but be on TV. I'm hoping, that they show. I actually looked up some videos on this. I'm hoping they show the mighty marching Hornets and the Stingettes dancing on the field at halftime, and how amazing that band is. Because as college football fans, we talk about pageantry a lot, but I think that is a chance to see a portion of some pageantry that doesn't often get the same kind of exposure that a lot of college football does.
I think you're right. It's going to be quite a game. Larry, talk to us about your boys. What do we think is going to happen?
They're probably going to get up by, 6-7 touchdowns first half, and then they're going to try to stick in all the backups. Try to get those guys gelled. I know we got a couple borderline, 5-star linebackers. I know they're going to want to start getting them some reps. So I think they're just going to go up big and run the ball and get some reps. So,
and kind of a chance to heal before the next week.
Yeah, so Utah doesn't like to run up the score on their in-state FCS teams, if that makes sense. But yeah, San Diego State, I'm not worried about them. Hopefully they're not looking ahead to Arizona State and they take care of San Diego State. But this week's just a tune-up.
Cool.
Yep.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a question, sort of, Tony and Tim, for you about USC in comparison to UCLA and the reactions to two games that I don't think are necessarily as that different of what happened last week. But the reactions from the fan base and the media are entirely different. And I think it's interesting to talk about why that is, because so UCLA started off slow, Tim, like you were talking about before, right? There's the interception where DTR never saw the guy. There was a muff punt return. There's a block punt for a TD where it looks absolutely awful. It ends up being only a 7-point lead at half, which is kind of what I said was going to happen last week, and said that might happen, and and everyone's wondering what the hell's wrong with UCLA. But at the later point, we end up scoring 38. At the end of the game, we score 38 unanswered. We have over 600 total yards. We only give up 37 yards rushing, So there are definitely like very, very bad things that happened early. But in terms of like having an offense that's humming and having a defense that showed up and did some good things, granted against lesser competition, and granted that we did that last year against Hawaii and LSU in terms of holding teams to ridiculously low rushing yard totals. I think it's funny because like the narrative after the week from UCLA fans is, oh, we're not that good. Here's all the bad things that we did, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And the talk out of USC is, you know, for beating, we both beat some really ranked teams, but the talk out of USC camp is like, oh, we're so excited for this year. Like everything's awesome. Like
part of it might be that, well, I definitely, this is what it is USC was so piss poor last year. You know, you guys went 8-4, didn't you? Right.
Correct.
And so the turnaround, I mean, everyone's so damn hungry. It is rice, but see, when you wait on the entire offseason after getting a coach, you know, the caliber of Lincoln Riley, getting just a slew of starters and freshman All-American and Heisman hopefuls, I think it just might be that just the spotlight's on USC a little bit more, just because the media and the spotlight, well, in general, usually is a little more.
It always is, and you're preseason ranked, and we're not. I totally get that. I think it's more. I think it's more of like a issue of UCLA fan being overly pessimistic than it is about.
I'll tell you another issue that I think actually played a big role in that, quite honestly. And I know that this sounds silly, but like the lack of crowd at the Rose Bowl was so pathetic that it literally made UCLA and the Pac-12 like the joke of the college football world this week. Like literally, UCLA was the joke of the college football world. And when you add in the fact that they had such a really bad slow start, like if you'd have flipped those halves around, I don't think it would have been the same, but I think it's a double whammy of that. Like everyone's in the middle of the afternoon, everyone's looking at their scores, and UCLA was losing to Bowling Green, and then immediately all over the college football world, the pictures went out of like 5 people in the Rose Bowl,
which I said was going to happen.
we knew it was, and also by the way, because UCLA classes haven't started and it was terrible weather, and you know what, old people don't need to die of heat stroke, and the Rose Bowl is a giant cauldron of convex heater concrete.
Oh, I mean,
it's awful.
Tony, kids on the field from Bowling Green. Kids from the field on Bowling Green, second half. So there's like a joke in UCLA fan world about how Kelly talks so much about hydration and like body, like taking care of himself. And we never had an issue. But in the second half of that game, when we had the ball, no joke, I'm not exaggerating, like every 2 plays, there was a kid on Bowling Green that went down, like cramping, or like the game stopped over and over because of how damn hot it was.
People do not appreciate, and I know you get all the doofus like Texas Tech people are going to be like, well, in Lubbock it was Bob. Well, you know what? It was awful in the Rose Bowl. And by the way, all of your stadiums in most other places are designed for airflow. Like you look at the beautiful stadium at Baylor is designed for shade and airflow. UCLA stadium is a giant like walk of reflective sun radiation beam just to like overheat, and it just is. And guys, it's not that big a thing. But I think that. So I don't begrudge the folks for not going, but I think the combination of those two really made them the butt of a bunch of jokes. Now, that's very easily overcome by selling out the Rose Bowl for your important games.
Right. And I'm not like making a normative position of like saying that should have been one way or the other reaction wise after the fact. I just think it's interesting and kind of a knock on our fan base, to be honest, a little bit, even though there's just no enthusiasm for the program, and I don't think that there will be unless we're 5-0 going into our game against Utah.
Now, do you think?
And then people will care.
And you probably should be.
Do you think that is because of the Chip Kelly effect? I mean, he's turned off a lot of fans. He's definitely turned off a lot of the alumni and boosters there. Do you think that he's wearing out his welcome?
I think yes, in a way. I think I think there's not a lot done. I think our AD is great in trying to promote. I think it's it's a non-conference schedule that people don't care about for a school that is used to playing, big marquee games in non-conference and has fans that think that's what they should be doing, regardless of whether it actually hurts your team on the field. And and you have Kelly, who before last year had the worst run of any UCLA head coach in UCLA's history. We go 8-4 last year, but we don't beat anyone with a better than 500 record. There's just not a lot of enthusiasm around football. And it's unfortunate.
I'm sorry. Yeah. That's the scary thing. So Chip Kelly's on a 4-game win streak. That's the largest win streak in Chip Kelly's UCLA career. I mean, that probably has a lot to do with the apathy. And to be fair, you guys did schedule Michigan, right? But they backed out for some reason. Is that right?
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. We appreciate it. Yeah, Wisconsin's going to be good this week. All right, guys, we've got a couple other folks. Let me move them in. Larry, hold on. I'm switching you to the back room real quick. We've got Ben, from a big Michigan fan and fan of all teams. Ben, what's going on? Tell us your thoughts on the Pac-12 this week.
All right, so here's my overreaction or possible reaction. I'm a Big Ten guy, and why am I over here on the Pac-12 channel talking to you folks? Because when I would put in major teams to record for watching later, last year wasn't a ton of Pac-12 games coming up, especially not USC. And now USC is popping up on my channel as a recorded game. And that's where my reaction is, or overreaction maybe. And I know a lot of other Pac-12 fans are not going to want to hear it, but the eyes of the nation are turning towards USC. They are. Everybody's wondering how this Stanford game is going to look. You guys got pretty much spanked by them last year. And,
more than pretty much.
Yeah, you were spanked.
Completely. So bad the coach helped me got fired in League 2.
It was a coach firing quality win, is what it was. They were smacked so hard that we finally got rid of that guy that used to be our coach.
Yeah. Well, now having Lincoln Riley over there, everybody's looking at USC, and I have been, and I'm more interested in the Stanford game than I am most any other game coming on this, and I think a lot of Pac-12, and I hate to say this, I know Eric and Ben are either listening or going to be listening to this, and they're going to hate it, but I think in their heart of hearts, they know they have to worry about USC. And I think this game is going to be an important factor, and they're telling us what we're going to look at for the attention USC is going to get the rest of this year, the media attention, and I think if they make a good showing here, it's just going to start the ball rolling.
So as we get ready for this game, Ben, I got to know, what questions are you going to want to ask the Stanford tree on Saturday or Friday as we get ready to chat before the Saturday game?
Oh boy. Let me think. I would want to ask him, how does he take losing? I want to ask him, how does he handle losing? Because I honestly think USC is going to win it this time. But I'm not a Pac-12 guy, and I don't know the rivalry and how that goes. But I just have a feeling that Lincoln Riley he's got my respect as a coach.
And to you guys in the chat, tell us, what do you want to ask the Stanford tree? Tell us what you guys want to hear, because we're going to want to know. Go, Tibia.
Yeah, Tony, while you're collecting quotes for the Stanford tree, I'll give you a bit of filler here and then you can run through them. But if I'm not as high on SC as SC fans are for what they did with Rice, I don't think we know anything yet. But if USC is half as good as USC fans think they are after that game, then they should be beating Stanford by like 3 touchdowns. Stanford is not good.
Here's open.
Well, I'm going to let you guys go with that note. I just wanted to get you guys' I know you, Tony, I don't know where you are. I know where Tim is, but where are you on? On this? Do you think USC is back?
USC is never not back. That's my stance. No,
Okay.
we had a real rough time.
You got to prove it on the field. I know.
And it was, and it wasn't really his fault because he's actually a pretty good coach. But it was a can't win situation where we started circling the drain. And in today's social media and constant 24-hour news cycle world with college football, once you start circling the drain, you gotta flush it. No, I mean it's true. Teams once the drain starts circling in college football today, I hate to say this, but I think you got to flush it. And we finally did, but we had to build up the program in the meantime, and we did, and we're getting to see the fruits of those rewards. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to watch that game, guys. It'll be great. I'll be a Big Ten guy watching the Pac-12 game this weekend.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, catch you later.
To clear up, Ben, though, here's one thing. I didn't say USC was back. Let's not strip things together. I'm saying that USC is back to competing in the Pac-12. That's for sure. We weren't competitive in the Pac-12. I think USC is a couple recruiting classes away of being able to call themselves contending for a playoff or a national championship. So that's the next step. First step is win your conference. I think we're well on the way to doing that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I meant. We're on that ascendancy of getting back where we need to get. All right, Ben, thanks for joining us. Why don't we bring in Michael, and we'll put the StreamYard in the chat, guys. We'd love to have you call in and chat about what you think is going on in the Pac-12. Michael, talk to us.
All right, a couple of games. I'm looking forward to the Washington game. I'm also looking forward to the Arizona State game and the Arizona game. Those are the three games I'm looking at.
What do you think is going to happen with Arizona State?
I think it'll be kind of a shootout, but I'm wondering, do they got enough to stop Oklahoma State though?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. And some of the guys pointed out in the chat, Central Michigan scored a lot of points. It wasn't necessarily against the first team, but then again, Arizona State's a lot better than Central Michigan.
Now with the Arizona game, I'm really looking to see what Cowan can do and stuff like that, because it looked like if he had an easy time with San Diego State last week, what can he do with Mississippi State?
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting. With Mississippi State, are they going to bring the cowbells? What do you think?
I think they'll bring the cowbells. And as far as treating my question,
cowbells in the desert.
I wonder if he's going to get into the fight with Cal's mascot this year, like the tree and Cal's mascot did back in the 90s.
That's a good question for the tree. That's a good question.
Not bad. So what time are you guys going to bring him on?
It's probably going to be kind of early evening. Kind of maybe mid-evening on the East Coast, early evening on the West Coast. After he's got class, he's doing class.
He's going to have class at 7:30 on a Friday night.
I'm not just class, various stuff.
Okay. I was wondering, can I wait for that and stuff like that? So, but he is an interesting follow on Twitter, and I recommend you guys follow him.
He is. He's great.
What are you looking forward?
Stanford tree. What am I looking forward to?
Tony? Yeah, which games?
Most of them. I'm really looking forward to USC-STANFORD because I think it's something that we've been waiting a long time. This is where we get to see if USC has got it back together. Sort of the next one. I think that just like you were saying, Michael, I think that this Mississippi State-Arizona game is going to be real interesting. And I'll tell you guys, I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't know if I'm going to care at all what's happening on the field, but I think the historic significance of Alabama State and the Stingats and the Marching Hornets coming into the Rose Bowl. When those guys march through the tunnel, I hope that it's on TV because it's pretty historic and it's pretty cool. Like TBM mentioned, UCLA is losing that status that they've always had of being being one of three teams to never have played in an FCS team. And they're losing it this year, and Notre Dame's losing it next year. But they're both losing it because they're playing HBCUs. And I think is going to Rose Bowl. The first time we bring an HBCU into Notre Dame Stadium, that's going to be really cool. But also to be clear, UCLA, and some of you guys may not know this, UCLA has they have such a rich history of diversity. UCLA has arguably done more for integration than any of the HBCUs. Jack Robinson was a legendary Bruin. Arthur Ashe.
I was going to say Arthur Ashe is a pretty big deal.
Arthur Ashe is a real big deal, especially this week of all weeks. Rayford Johnson was president of the UCLA student body while he was like sportsman of the year, winning Olympic gold medals. I mean, UCLA has always done amazing things. Now, the Cal,
especially with Jackie Robinson too.
Exactly. I'll tell you something actually kind of funny. The Cal chancellor says that in the 20s and 30s, when UCLA was trying to build up the program, part of the reason they were so strong in the black community is because when they were paying their players through the black churches, they knew that they wouldn't rat them out to the NCAA. So there's some funny memos on that from the to the president of the University of California that are now sort of unsecret and sealed as they were figuring out how UCLA was paying their players. It was kind of funny. That was back when NIL was not so talked about. So we're gonna see what happens.
Now, is Penix? I don't know. How did Plummer do last week for Cal? And can Penix back it up this week? What's his performance he had last week?
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, Penix. Tim, tell me what you think. I think Penix looked great. I think Kalen DeBoer, Washington had talent, and Kalen DeBoer came in, fixed up the program. That's what the guys on the team were talking about. The players on the team gave him the game ball last week. There's a pretty cool video of it. One of the team captains kind of in tears saying, "This is my 6th year, and thank you for everything. You've done it for us, coach." And again, Kalen DeBoer is a guy who's done nothing but win at every level of Washington. And he got hired about 2 days after Lincoln Riley, so nobody was paying any attention. But he's done nothing but win at every level. And Tim, I think he starts to bring Huskies back.
Yeah,
doing it right.
Penix was chucking the ball, man. He was throwing it all over the place. Like I think I said earlier, he's roughly 350 yards passing.
What did you do on the ground rushing?
Pardon?
What did you do on the ground running? Because I know he'll also run too.
Yeah, he's a big athletic dude. I couldn't see the whole game, so I don't know how he did overall. I just was able to see. They do a really cool thing where they do like the highlights of the games on the Pac-12 network. So I was looking at the highlights, and most of the highlights, they weren't really running highlights, but he's just making all the throws in the flat, over the middle, and he had a couple beautiful deep balls. So I think that DeBoer is going to be making some waves. I think that this year is going to be a dogfight for the Pac-12 North between Oregon State, Oregon, and Washington. I really think that's going to be a hell of a run up there. Now, I know obviously that it won't matter. It's not going to matter, yes, that they're not doing the North and South when it comes to the actual
divisions
championship game, but the scheduling is set up traditionally with the North and the South. And I think when all is said and done, I do think that it may not be Oregon with the best record up there.
Yep. All right, I'm going to ask you this, but I will say this about Penix. There is times he'll be erratic and will throw picks and stuff like that. From what he used to do the same thing in Indiana. My last thing before I go, Tim, are you feeling better, or are you still under the bug?
I'm feeling much better. Technically, I am COVID free, but I still have this stupid lingering cough, and just again, once in a while, for no random reason, I've had a little bit of just getting tired in the afternoon, which is not normal for me. But overall, I'm very pleased and grateful that I came through this thing with very little hiccups. So yeah, thank you very much, Michael.
You're welcome. And Tony, the next time you're late, you owe everybody a $20 gift card from Amazon.
What? Oh yeah.
I said the next time, all right, guys, take care. See you guys Friday.
Next time my computer decides to do what it's doing right now, I'm going to be lucky if I don't throw it against the refrigerator.
To answer Michael's question real quick.
I wanted to do last week. Do what?
What, Michael? I'm sorry?
I thought, what's his name was one to ask me a question.
No, I was going to answer your question. I think you asked about Plummer also and what Cal looked like. And especially early, it looked like a lot more of the same, unfortunately, for Cal's offense. I think they started the first 4 drives with either like a 3-and-out or an interception, and Plummer did not look that great. I think they figured it out and moved the ball later on. So maybe they figure it out, and it's, first new year, new offense and whatnot, if we want to try to make some excuses. But unfortunately for Cal, it looked like a bit more of the same on that side of the ball.
All right.
And to answer Gary Lewis's question, Gary, I assume those leads you're talking about are named after famous Arizona State legend Frank Kush. I don't know what else you're talking about. Obviously, Frank Kush is a legend, and I guess he might have some leaves named after him of some kind. I'm sure that's what they are. Michael,
right,
thank
guys,
you for
take
joining
care.
us.
See you guys.
Take it easy.
Hey, Nick, could you turn on your camera really quick just to make sure you're a human being for us? Hey, we won't. You don't have to put it on when we bring you on here. You can turn it back up. I just want if you have your camera real quick. All right, thanks,
hey,
Nick.
Nick. All right, we'll add you real quick. Nick, welcome.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. Tell us, what do you think about the Pac-12 this week?
As far as specific games, I mean, I'm more of a Big Ten fan, so I haven't looked at I guess I really haven't looked at the college football schedule coming up this weekend for big games just across the board. But I guess I just wanted to kind of get your guys' opinion on USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten. And do you think, I mean, I guess, what do you generally think of that? And do you think the Big Ten expansion model would fit more teams from the Pac-12 potentially joining? Because I don't think I know a lot of people are hating on it, like it's kind of a negative thing, but I actually think it could be a positive thing, like kind of more of a merger, especially if they're looking to add more teams. So
I'll tell you, I kind of look at, there's kind of like two pieces I look at this in. The first one is sort of like the strategic end of it, and then the second one is the financial end of it. So on the strategic end of it, I think you're absolutely right. I actually had done up a presentation about over a year ago, before Texas and Oklahoma left, actually, that advocated that 10 of the Pac-12 teams really should partner with the Big Ten in a truly like some form of a merger. I really think that the institutions have a lot to gain together. Nick, you probably know that the Big Ten is about way more than sports. It's about integration of all sorts of elements of the academic and the business and the research sides of the university. And the Pac-12 teams and the Big Ten teams have always been very culturally in lockstep with each other in a lot of ways. And so I think that actually almost all of the Pac-12 teams strategically would fit in the Big Ten. However, financially,
what's the AAU thing?
Exactly.
That stamp of approval.
Exactly. It's the AAU thing. And even schools like Arizona State, I mean, heck, even Washington State and Oregon State are really good schools. There are no crummy schools in the Pac-12. Even the ag schools get, a little bit of they get kind of a little bit of a bad rap because their admissions are a little more flexible, but like they do some like serious world-class stuff at both of those schools. Like, and we like to tease them, but like they really do. I mean, equal to or better than a lot of the stuff, like even at a school like Nebraska. So, again, all of those schools, Arizona State is, they've always sort of been dinged a little bit by like the AAU on like their admissions and stuff. But Arizona State is also a world-class school. It's a great school. So in that regard, they would really fit. The hard thing is, you think about like the Big Ten right now is sort of, split into a pizza pie. Who makes the pie big enough that adding another slice actually makes each slice bigger? USC and UCLA did that. There's a lot of question as to who else does that, and that's the hard thing. So I think hypothetically, if we were if we were rearranging building blocks, who could maybe Washington. I mean, I honestly think though that because of the Big Ten is about so much more than sports, that Cal, Stanford, Washington, they would really add a lot. But
do you think the Big Ten could be the structure for the new pod system? So like regional pod system. So like with the UCLA and USC, that's obviously a similar location. So you're going southwest. What about the northwest? And then you could potentially try to pick off some ACC teams. I mean, if you're just trying to go by region.
There's a lot of people that point out, and I've actually done some talks with Mark on this on his Florida State and Miami channels, that Miami and Florida State would be very good fits for the Big Ten as well. Now, the ACC grant of rights is not going anywhere legally, probably. So we'll see. And the latest word that we're hearing from Big Ten sources is, whatever that's worth. But not the nitwits, but the actual things like we're getting, like the stuff from the president and athletic director of Idaho, at Iowa, not Idaho, the stuff we've heard out of Ohio State is that right now the Big Ten seems to be staying pretty much pat. So I think we'll see probably the Pac-12 will have like, a 5 or 6 year grant of rights or something. The Pac-12 will certainly continue to thrive and see what happens going forward. You with a playoff structure that might or might not continue. You might see something more of. We hate to use the word alliance because it sort of is a bad word right now. But you might see a more of a partnership as wounds heal a little bit. Yeah. Because the thing is, like I said, the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten are really culturally aligned on their institutions and values. They're about being a university. And I know that is literally makes certain minds at, like schools that play in Farmageddon, like explode at the thought of the fact that a university is about being a university. College football is based on colleges. Because we joke a lot of times in the Big Ten, we say the B stands for billions, and everyone else is playing in their millions. And that's just something that I think doesn't get enough credit.
But a lot of that funding too. I mean, I don't know how, from the academic standpoint, that AAU stamp is a huge thing from funding, and the academic side really. I mean, the only school in the Big Ten, take away USC and UCLA, the only school in the Big Ten currently that doesn't have the AAU stamp is Nebraska. And they did when they originally joined. Yeah. But because their, medical center was off campus, they got booted out.
They had a couple other issues.
This is a great conversation, but this is a Pac-12 show.
Sorry.
We're kind of going off the topic.
I count the Big Ten as Pac-12.
Your call, Nick. I really do.
Thank you, Tim. You're right.
12?
What?
Nick, did you have a question about the Pac-12 or any games coming up?
No, I guess I just one last comment. I can let you go back to it. I really love the Rose Bowl, so I would love the Big Ten and the Pac-12 to figure out some kind of merger, and we could keep that thing going alive. That Rose Bowl is special, and I don't want to see it go down. So thanks, guys.
Nick, I think you're totally right, and I'm also proud that the Rose Bowl has now been the Big Ten championship 47 times as USC and UCLA move in there. All right, guys.
Nick, loved your thoughts and everything. Remember, we also do here on Mark's channel on Sunday nights. We do an After Dark. Ben hosts a really fun show, and we'd love to hear you call in on that, and we'd love to discuss that with you then.
Yeah, Nick, you should come join us on Sunday. Sorry, Nick, I'm getting scolded by Tim. Correctly so for straying into Big Ten land. J-Dub, welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen. I am pleased to take the conversation away from realignment.
Please do.
I've had quite enough of that. I grew up in Springfield, Illinois, 3 blocks from where President Lincoln is buried. I went to school at the University of Alabama, got my Bachelor of Science in Communications in 1989, went to work for the Associated Press in Des Moines, Iowa in 1990. And in my entire life, I've given not one rip about West Coast sports.
Well, we're glad to have you on the
I never root for anything west of the Rockies. I don't care what the sport is. I don't care what's going on, unless it's somebody who's competing for the United States in the Olympics. But that said, I want to tip the hat to both Tony and Tim, because following you guys in this Mark Rogers stream and in these shows has made the Pac-12 interesting for me. For the first time in my life, I'm kind of curious about what goes on out there instead of ignoring it until January 1st. So I guess what the larger message is, kudos to you guys for turning an old curmudgeon into somebody who will at least open his ears. And also, that's one of the great things about college football, that there can be interest across the board. I know a lot of people, a lot of my family, a lot of my friends who are Bears fans, and they're NFL fans, they're Bears fans, and they don't care anything about anybody else. They don't know anything about anybody else. They don't want to hear anything about anybody else. They don't want to read anything about anybody else. It's just about the Bears, And it's like, you got to at least, know what's going on around the rest of the country. And I gave that about a bunch of lip service this whole time, ignoring the ACC and the Pac-12. Well, just between all of us, I'm still ignoring the ACC. But
that's okay.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I can't help it. I can't help it. When I think of the ACC, I know this is not a direct connection. I keep thinking of Beano Cook and in the 70s and the 80s and East Coast football, when it was a bunch of small independent schools and all they did was play each other and they were nobodies and they beat up each other and then they got into a bowl game and they got humiliated. And it was not good football. And it's still not good football. But there's been good football out on the West Coast. And I agree with Tony. I hope people get a chance to see some of this UCLA Alabama State game. If you go onto YouTube and you look up bands and you look up Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Southern, Grambling, some of these HBCU bands, Florida A&M, you are in for a show.
It's going to be really cool. JW, by the way, a couple quick laughs. BW says, you're now West Coast curious, and he likes it. Chris gives us perhaps the biggest compliment we've ever gotten. The fact that we got one person from SEC country to maybe watch a Pac-12 game means the show has done God's work.
Oh, I've watched Pac-12 games. In fact, my question for the Stanford tree is how does he stay mobile on the sidelines with that much wood?
Yo, you should definitely call and ask him. He will have a good answer for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have to say, I was
on Instagram. He looks like he's pretty popular anyway, so I think he'll have a good answer.
I do have to say, when I saw that Ball State UCLA, I don't want to say the crowd. I would say when I saw the people who had gathered, it was rather shocking.
Yeah.
They would have had a much larger crowd in Muncie.
They sadly would have, but it should be a good one. Well, thanks, JW. That you are definitely our nicest caller of the day. We appreciate it.
Yeah. I just wanted to call in and let you know that I've been listening and I will continue to listen and good job and best of luck to your teams. As always, as long as they don't play Bama, I'm happy to root for anybody's team. Let them win as long as they're not playing Bama.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, we're gonna try not to play Bama for a little bit until we're ready.
We're ready. All right.
We'll see.
Hey, last thing real quick. I thought I'd drop this in real fast. I know it's Pac-12. Unbelievable. The $1 million band, Alabama's band, is not going to the game in Austin. I have not been able to figure out why, but they're not going.
I have two theories.
It has been confirmed, however, that the football team from Alabama will be eating dinner Saturday night at the Longhorn Steakhouse.
JW, I have a question. You might know the answer to this. I saw the reason they're not going is ostensibly because UT is going to put them in the upper deck. I've also seen reports that Alabama has chosen, or essentially chose to put like their donors in the better seat and the band in the upper deck, which is a question. And then I've also seen people questioning whether the band's just really trying to save some money and get out of the deal. So,
I'm sure money is involved. It's clearly a money thing. It's just,
or maybe they just think their services really aren't needed.
Well, they might not be, but I hope that this doesn't. And believe me, because in the Big 12, I've dealt with Texas for a long, long time. They might just have the ugliest band uniforms in the country, in my opinion. So if they don't go to BDS next year, nobody in Tuscaloosa is going to miss them.
All right. Well, we'll see. It's going to be a good one. Hey, thanks for calling in.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. All right, we've got Jeffrey. Jeffrey, welcome.
Free.
Hi, how you doing? I gotta ask you a few questions. I'm a Big Ten guy and SEC and all that on the East Coast. But
Hey,
I'm just
Jeffrey, Jeffrey, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm a big fan of yours. I saw you on Mark Rogers the other day, and I think you're coming for everybody's job. So I'm a bit nervous having you here. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't think I'm that good. I'm actually getting really nervous when I'm on here, but I just like talking college football. You guys do a great job. Mark does a great job, and I love coming on here. But thank you. But I want to ask you, in your opinion, since y'all are Pac-12 guys, what happened to Stanford? What happened to Stanford? Why did they fall apart?
I've had some theories on that. I think that for a while there, Stanford was getting, well, Stanford still does, because when you think who's usually the smartest guy on the football field, people don't realize it's usually not even the quarterback. It's usually the offensive lineman. Those guys are smart, and Stanford was stockpiling the best West Coast linemen and from all over the place for years. And it just seems like I think part of it had to do with Oregon's had a great run of getting offensive linemen. So that's a part of it. But I just don't know, because I do have all the respect in the world for David Shaw. Well, at least I did. I think he does a great job there. But for some reason, they're just not getting that premier running back, that great quarterback, and that unbeatable front seven and offensive line. I don't know where the recruiting's going, but that's you want my short answer? It's recruiting. They're not recruiting the guys they used to.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% on the recruiting. But all I know is when I was younger, that Stanford was like elite, and it's just kind of sad to see them struggling. Another question I got: do you think if Utah
real quick before you ask that, we hope that you'll join us on Friday, because the better person to answer that question is the 44th Stanford tree.
Tony, I can add a little bit to that too, if you like. For Stanford, especially in the world of the transfer portal, that's a one-way thing for Stanford, because people, a lot of schools like to talk about like their academic requirements of getting football kids in. Like Notre Dame likes to talk about it, UCLA likes to talk about it. Other schools like to talk about it. But for Stanford, it's really, really true. And they can't get grad transfers or transfers from other schools university-wise in the same way like any of these other schools can. So the transfer portal being, like a free-for-all kind of thing, free agency, if you will, so to speak, is that another aspect of it, in addition to what Tim already said, is the fact that that's a one-way street for Stanford. And they're not going to bring in the same kind of people that they're losing.
Chris, wouldn't you agree, though? That's always been the case with Stanford. And when you go to grad school, you'd be a grad transfer, that the one-time rule really hasn't affected that either. Like with Stanford, that's been a standing thing with Stanford, is getting kids in admissions-wise, as well as, there's not many Andrew Lucks out there, right, that are brilliant minds and also like NFL quality quarterbacks, and then McCaffrey was a legacy. Someone said that it was Harbaugh left and they fell apart. They didn't. David Shaw had that stuff roll in the beginning. He was cranking at the beginning of the decade. So I mean, it didn't, and that's the weirdest part. I think what's got Jeffrey asking the question is he had it rolling. It wasn't like a Helfrich. It wasn't a 1-year deal. He had it going for a while, and then all of a sudden, again, literally, this was the answer up here too. We played. I lost it. Mike Bloomgren, right? We just played them at Rice, and he was a big part when he left. That's maybe I'm missing. Maybe I thought a little too simply, but that's it. Just losing a guy like him is going to definitely affect offensive line recruiting. And for all the great, again, Andrew Lucks and Loves and McCaffreys, I think about when I think about those great runs that Stanford had. I just remember those offensive lines just being freaking brutal. These two tight end sets on the goal line. It's like, dude, just hand them 6 points. These guys are going to score, and that's just not there anymore.
And Tim, I think, is really right. I mean, so remember, you guys, with COVID and stuff, everybody got extra years added on. Now graduate transfers are all the rage. And the problem is, like, even some of Stanford's own kids can't get into their own grad school, and it's a real issue. And I don't know if you know this, Jeffrey. Stanford in the 1950s, when USC and UCLA did exactly what USC and UCLA are doing right now, Stanford and Cal tried to join the Ivy League, and the Ivy League told them no. They really were like, okay, we don't even know if we can do this anymore, and looked to actually get out. The Ivy League told them no, and so then they actually went and created what's today's the Pac-12, because they were in such a mess. So, Stanford has always kind of been on a real different level. In this era of transfer students and transfer quarterback, it doesn't always work. And I'm gonna be real stereotypical, and this does not apply to everybody, guys, certainly. But there's a lot of the football players at a lot of schools that are taking like crap classes and not doing great. And if you're taking crap classes and you're not doing great, you're not going to get into Stanford as a transfer.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not, or in any way. And so Stanford is the #1 school in all of FBS academically, and it is no joke. And you guys are going to see, by the way, when you guys meet the Stanford tree, like, people from Stanford are kind of awesome. When you see their band, and you see their fans, like, there's really no more punchable fan base imaginable. But then when you meet their actual individual people, they're all friggin' awesome. And it's a really, really neat place. It's really cool people. Again, they're banned, burn them at the stake, but their kids are really awesome.
Well, yeah, like I said, watching Stanford, but last year it was just so frustrating. They beat Oregon, and then they beat USC, and then they lost to all those bad teams. It was just unbelievable. But yeah, that's real interesting. I didn't know on the Ivy League. But the other thing I was going to ask, do you think if Utah runs the table and wins out and wins the Pac-12 championship game, or can they make the playoff?
I would think yes, because there's a couple caveats to that. One, Florida can't start losing. If Florida wins 7, 8, 9 games, you have to factor in the fact that they traveled across the country to play in the swamp, lost on an interception at the end of the game. I mean, that factors in for that loss. Also, they're going to need to rely on USC and Oregon playing very well, because they're going to need, some really quality wins. And let's just assume, this is assuming under my scenario that they can make it. You're looking at USC and Oregon both have to be ranked teams, probably like 10-2, 9-3 type teams, and they got to win convincingly over those. So you got to figure they're probably going to play Oregon or USC twice, right? During the regular season, and then they meet them in the championship game. So under all those situations, is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. There you go.
There's another thing, Jeffrey. And for those SEC fans, there's the thing my friend Chris likes to call the Phil Fulmer School of Losing, from when Phil Fulmer was the coach at Tennessee. And that is that if you lose early, you can pretend it didn't happen by the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And so, if Utah were to run the table, they certainly could do it. But I'll tell you, Jeffrey, one of the weird things about the Pac-12, it's such a fun, like, wacky cultural conference. But one of the most bizarre things, and it just, it like drives us crazy every year, is that every game is a trap game. So wait, who do you cheer for in the Big Ten?
Indiana. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're a Hoosier, so you kind of understand this. Like Purdue, Iowa, like Illinois, like they can have some terrible teams. They can have some genuinely terrible teams, and great teams will go in there and lose.
Mm-hmm.
And every Pac-12 game is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not.
I love watching them too. My mom can't stand when I stay up for them, but I love watching them. Going to bed at 1:30, she's so mad. But man, they're great. You have like that Washington State game last year, and they were against I think it was Oregon, or 2 years ago, and it was like 60-55. It was crazy.
Wacky things happen. When USC goes up to Corvallis, USC's been like #1 and undefeated like 3 times going up to Corvallis and lost. Curses. Those Washington games, that crowd. Washington is, and I guess it can vary on the decibel meter, but Washington is the loudest, or one of the top 3 loudest stadiums in the country. Right there on the lake, like just crazy stuff goes on in all of these games, and it's one of the things that makes the conference like pretty cool. And that's one of the things that, we love watching about it. We don't so love it when it happens to us and we're the team that gets beat as Trojans. But it is a real neat thing for the conference, and it's something very special. Again, you guys have it in the Big Ten with Iowa and Illinois and Purdue, where they do the same thing.
I got 2 more quick questions, and I'll leave if USC loses to Utah, do you think that if they run the table, do you think they can make the playoff, or do you think the loss would be too late and they would drop too far?
Wait, say it again. If
USC loses to Utah, but then wins every other game and wins the Pac-12, and going 12-1, the Pac-12 South, do you think they can make the playoff, or do you think the loss would be too late?
USC can make the playoff.
It really depends on how
we're going to
like. But I would be surprised. Again, I think you're looking at the scenario you're talking about, and we're all looking at is a situation where you have a 1-loss Georgia or Alabama. Is that what you're saying? Right. It's going to be pretty hard to count out a 12-1 USC team if again that loss isn't like an embarrassing loss. So I would say, yeah, I believe USC could win.
If you had like Alabama and Georgia already in there, and then Ohio State, just say they're in there, what would happen if you had 12-1 Utah or 12-1 USC versus 11-1 Notre Dame? With Notre Dame's only lost to Ohio State, who would they pick?
Well, so if you had that with USC would have probably beaten Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, well, okay. Well, if it's Utah, then
yeah. That's going to. I honestly think if Utah wins out, that Phil Fulmer school of losing, if Utah wins, I mean, look at how much we forgave Utah's early season losses last year. I mean, they had like 3 of them or whatever, and I mean, there were good reasons. They had, they had a player die. They had the quarterback situation. They had, I'm not saying there weren't reasons, but like we kind of forgave like a lot of stuff last year, and I think that they certainly, if they were to win out, they probably could. I think one of the other things there, and this from Indiana, there's something so special about the Rose Bowl, and Utah got to experience it last year. And like, if you saw the Utah folks, like Utah, when Utah was in the Mountain West, I mean, from them coming up to join the Pac-12, they got into the AAU, and then for them to take the state of Utah to the Rose Bowl for the first time ever was something really, really special. And they got the hunger for it. And so I'll tell you what, for them to get back to the Rose Bowl and be able to have a chance to win, I think they would go crazy for it. The Rose Bowl is in USC's blood. We've been to, what is it, Tim? We've been to 36 of them, 35 of them?
35, I believe.
30. We've been to 35 Rose Bowls, which is bananas. So, that's very much in USC's blood. They would love to go to it. I honestly think, I don't want to scoff and say like, oh, it doesn't really matter if we make the playoff, but like to any of these teams right now to get a solid chance to win the conference, they would be delighted to be in Pasadena regardless of the playoff. I think if there's an undefeated or a 1-loss team, they certainly would have as good a shot as anybody.
Yeah, because it's funny talking about the Rose Bowl, because Indiana hasn't made the Rose Bowl since 1967. And now they're gonna have to play UCLA when they join the Big Ten in a couple years. It's kind of funny.
Jeffrey, you get to go to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to get some money to fly out there. I don't know.
You got a couple years to save up. You got a couple years.
Sorry, correction on 35 is 34 with 25 wins.
34 with 25 wins. Okay.
My last question is, if Michael Penix stays healthy, do you think that Washington can beat Oregon and win the North? I do, because he was that good at Indiana when he was healthy.
Yeah, he has a really special relationship with that. I'm really a big believer in the I wrote down I was watching a game, and it was McMillan kid. He must have I lost track of the touchdown passes that guy. They got a really good connection. I think that Oregon is a great team with lots of talent, but I think that they have some growing pains with, not that Washington's not doing the same thing. I think it's going to be a dogfight. To be honest with you, if Penix stays healthy, and that defense, man, we're talking all about the offense and Penix, that defense looks stout too. So I do think that they have a really good chance to win the North.
Yeah,
Okay,
it sucks that he got hurt because he was really good at Indiana, man, and they just could not protect him. He kept tearing his ACL. It was terrible. But yeah, I do think they'll win the North with him if he stays healthy. Mm-hmm.
All right, we got some heat, by the way, coming from our good friend Zach, the Purdue fan. Says you're from Southern Indiana near near Bloomington. Zach is from Northern Indiana near Purdue and is a devout Purdue fan. So there's a little bit of Big Ten rivalry in the chat. I like it.
I have to say, I'm not from Southern Indiana. I'm from North Carolina.
Oh, even better. I like it.
Yeah, I'm North Carolina.
Oh no, you froze up.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jeffrey, listen, if you're still out there, I don't know if you lost your connection, but if you are, I noticed you had, do you have your own site? If you do, please post it in the chat and we could post a link. Cause man, I think you're the next Mark Rogers. You got a love for this game that makes me really smile. So best of luck to you, bud.
Yeah. Best of luck and join us anytime. We'd love to have you.
Sounds good. Can't wait next time. I'll be on Friday for the tree.
Hey,
do you have your own channel, Jeffrey?
Say again.
Do you have a channel, Jeffrey? You want to plug?
You can. I got my channel's Only Talk Sports. I started it 3 weeks ago. Doing some college football and basketball content. Like I said, Only Talk Sports. That's just my YouTube channel, but I don't have any other social media yet. But just that. But
okay.
Thanks.
In the private chat in Streamyard, put the link in there, and we'll share it to the group in just a minute.
How do I do that?
Tony, if he puts it in the regular chat, I'll copy and paste it.
Perfect. Yeah, do that. Just put it in the chat, and Tim will copy and paste it in, because let's all subscribe, because Jeffrey's probably got a great channel. He's great to hear, and Jeffrey, we'd love to have you call in and chat with the tree.
Yeah, thank you. I will. I can't wait. I'll do that on Friday. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Good night. Thank you.
See ya. All right, gang. What a night this has been. Who else is out there? There's a bunch of you out there. There's a bunch of you sort of lurking. Come on, call and tell us about your teams.
Well, I see some Beavers out there. I see out there.
Zach, come on. What's going to happen when Purdue starts to play some of these teams? And Connor, your Beavs have a game. We have not heard from you yet.
And also Zona Tucson, we were pumping up your Arizona. We were saying you're one of the games of the week. Get in here and talk to us about your team, man.
Yeah, Zona Tucson. You guys have the game. I mean, you guys have a chance to stick it to Mississippi State. Do you know what would happen? First of all, let's think about how all of the SEC fans would literally have a brain aneurysm meltdown.
There's a good chance that the fish in Jeff Webster's house would stop swimming if you actually pulled that stuff up. So that would be amazing.
It would. And I mean, we've got the fish versus the pirate as far as the coaches go. Jed Fish and Mike Leach. Oh, you're right. That's kid. Jeffrey's totally awesome. And yeah,
I'm hearing about how Washington has chances to be one of the best teams in the North, and I need Connor to stop eating dinner and come in here and explain to us about how the Beavs are winning 10 games and that Washington is an afterthought after the Chainsaws and Corvallis get done with everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Because Benny the Beaver has his chainsaws ready to go. So we want to hear what's happening. Hummus Hero says, I would love to see Arizona State take it to Mississippi State. That would be awesome. It might be able to happen, guys. We might be able to shut down the cowbells. It's going to be interesting to sort of see. NorCal Matt just pulled up at home with In-N-Out Burger. Okay, call and tell us about the In-N-Out Burger. I'm in Florida right now. I miss In-N-Out Burger. It is phenomenal. It is the best. All right, who else is out there? So Tim, what are you going to want to ask the Stanford tree?
I'm actually you dropped that little nugget to me that he has his side hustle, and so even before he gets into college, just this little school called Stanford, he started his own esports league. Is that correct?
Yeah, with like a $6 million prize. I mean, it's actually a big company.
Just
CEO, he started it.
Again, it's no secret that there's exceptional people at Stanford. Like I know we like to mess with them, but it's just amazing to hear stories like that. So I'm just curious to pick his mind about that kind of thing. I don't know much about it, but I do find it fascinating.
Yeah, he's a really neat guy.
I'm also curious, but actually the big thing when you first told me is I really want to ask him, what is the selection process to become the tree? Because I'm sure there's a line for that. And I'm just curious, I know that because we had the drum major at USC. So I kind of know the lineage for that. If you want to be the drum major, right? Pretty easy. But I am curious how you line up to become the tree at Stanford. That's also what resume do you need to have on there? Do you need to be a multi-million-dollar E-League owner in order to do that? I just want to know what he says that there's a criteria to become the tree.
Exactly. You have to be a multi-millionaire businessman by the age of 16, and then you can be the Stanford tree. Maybe that's how it works. No, that is really and it twists on the Stanford tree, guys. I don't know if you know this. First of all, let's give Stanford. To remind you, Stanford wasn't always so woke. They used to be the Indians, and Stanford changed their name to the Cardinal in the 70s. Cardinal like the color, not like the bird, and used the tree from their logo, which dates back to I don't know if you guys know this. Stanford was founded by Leland Stanford, named after his son. You guys, the story of the Golden Spike, how they united the East and West with the Transcontinental Railroad at Promontory Point, Utah, and they drove the Golden Spike. Well, Leland Stanford was the robber baron railroad president who actually drove the Golden Spike. So if you guys go to Stanford, you can actually see the Golden Spike itself is at Stanford. And his family endowed this university with just an ungodly amount of money and left it there. I think their dairy farm south of San Francisco. And that today is the campus. And then that campus is where they literally built Silicon Valley on spare land of the campus. So the Stanford Research Park, Hewlett Packard, all those companies that started there, literally started on the Stanford campus. So it's an incredible place. Again, banned, totally punchable, but pretty awesome people.
Speaking of pretty awesome people, I saw a couple Trojans rolling here. I'd love to hear from a Trojan calling. We created a platform for all of us Pac-12 orphans to have a voice, and we've had some amazing calls. We have a couple Pac-12 people calling, but the majority I've seen have been Big Ten, and we even had an SEC caller. Really looking forward to hearing, if not this week, next week, from some of you guys out there, because I know you're lurking out there. You don't have to have your camera on. Come on in, brag about your team, vent about your team. If you're a Duck, tell us what went wrong. Speaking of the Pacific Northwest,
Thieves, let's welcome the star of the Oregon State University. Welcome, Connor Johnson.
What's up, fellas? I'm still eating a little bit, so I'll try not. I know it's annoying. This isn't an ASMR food eating podcast, so I'll try to keep that to a minimum.
Connor, tell us, big game for the Beavs this weekend. Biggest game probably in the history of Fresno. What do you want? What are you looking forward to?
The Fresno fans are saying that it's going to be the biggest crowd in history. I'm fairly confident. I don't think, I'm not as confident as I was against Boise, but also the team 24-0 at half. We put in some second string guys. We let them come back a little bit, but the things that I said needed to happen, Chance Nolan taking a step forward in the second year, like Luton did a few years ago. I mean, the deep ball, he had a drop pass on the first drive, 50, 60-yard throw that Trayshawn Harrison just flat out dropped. So, and people think of our run game first. So if our pass game continues the way it is, I was comparing the talent player by player using like recruiting rankings and stats of Fresno and our guys, and we're the more talented team. I even think Jake Haener struggled against Cal Poly, and people he's a good quarterback, Heisman hopeful, but Hank Bachmeier was also supposed to be a good quarterback, and we essentially got him benched in the second quarter.
You guys definitely did.
Yeah. So, I mean, we struggled. Chance Nolan made a few errors, but I actually kind of liked having to struggle a little bit because there was stuff the coaches could teach, and we're probably up there in the top of the conference for coaching staff and developing players and scheming guys. So if there's stuff that I think this team's going to get better every week, and to start out where we started out, I personally knew it was coming, but I couldn't be too cocky because this is the same team that was the worst Power 5 team 5 years ago when Jonathan Smith took over.
Now,
So
Connor,
needless to say, yeah, go for it, Tim.
well, I was just going to ask you, tell us about Fenwick, probably one of the better running backs that nobody knows about. You guys are hiding him up there in Corvallis.
Yeah, I said last week, I think he's our bruiser. He's a downhill runner. He had a fumble the first drive, which I think hurt his confidence a little bit. But it's not just him. This freshman, Damian Martinez, is going to get time. And then Trey Lowe, the third down back, the running game is fine. I mean, people were saying, oh, BJ Baylor's gone, it'll hurt. But the O-line's back and like the scheme is back. It's just we play hard mouth SEC style football, but we can air it out. Like Jonathan Smith is so I want to go back to what Serge was saying to compare us to Washington. When Peterson stepped down, Jonathan Smith was his offensive coordinator and Jimmy Lake was his defensive coordinator. And if you look at that, I mean, sure, Jimmy Lake had more experience and the defense was better, but there was still a choice to be made. If we're going to promote within, I'm sure they were talking about Jonathan Smith too. They didn't promote Jonathan Smith, and that offense the last 2 years has been horrendous, which just goes to show how important Smith is to our offense. And it's the best offense after 1 week. Like Mark does his, the results on the field matter. It had the best results. I mean, maybe Jaden DeLora can make and we struggled with Jaden DeLora from Wazzu. We haven't beaten Wazzu in years. There's still that rivalry that I hate to, if Ben or Eric are listening and I'm going to call us or the little brother, I hate that. But Wazzu and us, we share a lot of similar, like Tony was saying, the ag schools, which on that topic, we have like the greatest marine biology program. The research grants that we get are amazing. It's definitely the better school between Oregon and Oregon State.
I mean, don't you guys have? I think you have a lot more research than Oregon State, don't you? Or than Oregon, don't you?
Yeah, we're the science. When I chose to come to school here, long story, but I had the GI Bill to use, which is free school, and I knew I wanted to be a science student. And when you're looking at Oregon State, Oregon State's the more science school, and Corvallis is a way better college town. So I get sad when people talk about realignment and forget to talk about us and Wazzu.
Yeah, I think people make a big mistake in doing that because you guys in Wazzu are awesome schools that have a lot of awesome tradition, and people don't necessarily understand that. And some of you guys may not know this, but Oregon State was the first Heisman Trophy winning school on the West Coast.
Tony Baker, he barely threw the ball. But
yeah, he didn't throw the ball out, but he was a quarterback. And not only that, but he led them as a Cinderella to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Literally, their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, before any USC players won the Heisman Trophy, was Oregon State. And they did it under 62.
I was going to ask you the year, 62. Okay.
I think it's 62. I could give or take one. I think it's 62 though. And that actually was one of the big pushes that then got you guys back, because you had a president, A.L. Strand, who was a complete douchebag who sort of got Oregon State joined the wrong clique when the schools were fighting in the Pacific Coast Conference. And so once he was gone, it was literally as soon as he retired, Oregon and Oregon State were invited to join the Pac-12 because everyone who was on the wrong side of the clique had to go away. But yeah, so much great tradition, and you guys really get shorted on it. People do not understand that there is a lot of rich tradition at Wazzu and at Oregon State.
A lot of people don't realize that Oregon State has probably cost USC more national championships than the other OSU.
So, I think of one.
I can think of three off the top of my head that have been crushed by the Beavers.
Literally 3 national championships we would probably have if it weren't for the darn Beavers. I don't think
for
Ohio
those still listening, where does USC travel to play Oregon State this year? That's not this question.
I'll tell you, if you want to really terrify a USC person, speaking of ASMR, just say really quietly in their ear, Corvallis. Friday night.
A rainy, misty
Raining.
night in Corvallis.
I'm not too worried, Connor. Here's the reason why I'm not worried about going to Corvallis this year, because we're not going to be sniffing a national championship. So I think we win this one. If
Well,
we
we
were
have half
in
the
the hunt,
stadium,
then maybe I'd be worried, but we're not going to be in the hunt for a title this year. So I
It'll
think
be your offensive talent showed up.
Should we? I'm terrified.
No, y'all are downplaying it though, so that if you do lose, it'll be okay. But you have the more talented team. But our coaching, I don't know. We play way above our talent level. It's
well,
wild.
again, you have continuity. Yeah, I am a big believer. You know,
That hurt Oregon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Jonathan Smith has it rolling. I really think you guys are building something up there, and I can't believe there are days when someone said this is his 5th year. I couldn't believe that this is already his 5th year. But you know, what he's doing up there is legit, and I'm saying if we lose, we lose. I wouldn't. The very beginning of the year, one of the games I circled as a possible loss was the Corvallis effect, and was the fact that just as a respect to how well prepared I know your defense is going to be, and I know how good those Jonathan Smith offenses are. So I mean, I'm not going to be remotely shocked if we're in a dogfight, and it's not going to be a huge. I don't think it's going to be a huge story if you actually beat us. So I mean,
his game management and like decision making is also top notch. That Jonathan Smith is straight up like one of the best coaches in the country. I think that people outside of the West Coast have no idea about.
I don't think people know his name. I don't think
So that everybody
Alabama
knows
fans
quick.
know.
I just got word from the tree. It looks like it's going to be at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific.
All right, right in between class for him.
Yeah,
I
right
love
at the end of
Stanford.
class. I think he's got some stuff on Friday evening. Anyway, we'll sort out. We'll get the exact details coming up.
I wanted to touch on what Serge was saying about Jonathan Smith. And Tim made me think of this too. 5 years is a fairly long time. With COVID year, you could more like 4. But he legitimately went from like 130th team program. They were awful, and he did it. He's probably the last coach in the last program that will do a traditional, old school style turnaround. Where we had a few transfers in 2018, 2019, but we didn't rely on them, and transfer market wasn't what it is now back then. So he did it the right way, and he recruits players. He played here. He was our quarterback last time we were good, beat Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. So he knows how to get kids up here that want to be up here. And I mean, we do have talent. Don't get me wrong. Luke Musgrave is going to be an NFL tight end. And I think we have just enough talent combined with the coaching staff to be like Mark made us the sleeper, but like I just want to start with the Pac-12. I mean, we're a sleeper to win the Pac. If we beat Fresno State this weekend the same way we beat Boise, and we start off the Pac-12 conference beating USC and Utah back-to-back, even if we split those 4-1, we'll be ranked nationally. We might be ranked if we beat Fresno, but nobody knows who Jonathan Smith is east of Colorado.
I'll tell you what, fans may not know who Jonathan Smith is, but there's a lot of ADs out there that do know. But since Jonathan Smith is an ex-quarterback for you guys, and he's definitely a Beaver for life. The only way
He's not going anywhere.
to be one day, I think he's good enough that he might get some looks from NFL teams at some point, and that's when you gotta get nervous. But he's not going anywhere soon, so guys.
And I love the story that when he came into interview that they were looking at all these coaches, all these head coaching experience. And he came in with that Fiesta Bowl ring from the greatest year in Oregon State history.
I didn't know that.
I know how to build this team. What?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he made a big deal that he came in with a plan, and he told them, this is the plan, and it's going to take 4 years because you have a terrible team. But he said, I was here when we built the team up once, and I'll be here and I'll do it again. With making sure to hold up that ring to be like,
yeah,
I was here when we did this.
We don't have Chad Johnson this time, though.
No, that did help. It did help. Those both. I can't lie. Those both helped a little bit.
Yeah, Zada too.
Denny Erickson, who I love. I used to know Denny Erickson. My dad used to go down and scheme offenses with the Miami staff when he was at Miami, and he's an awesome guy. But yeah, a lot of things were flexible into the Erickson years, and And Jonathan Smith's a little more buttoned down, but he's gone around and learned from the best at
that tree. That's an underappreciated coaching tree. Dennis
yeah,
Erickson.
Denny
Andy
Erickson.
Avalos.
Yeah, Denny Erickson plus Chris Peterson. That's those are not bad mentors.
Yeah. And even what's the guy that went to Nebraska and screwed them over? Even he had Mike Riley. He even had a good period when we were decent 10 years ago with Brandon.
A proud Trojan, we might add. I mean, he's somebody that he had. So they tried to hire him, and he 1 year with San Diego, and so he wouldn't take the job, and we ended up instead with the guy who washed out with the Patriots. What was his name?
Wow.
Pete something. That worked out.
Tim would have to help you out.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I think people who say that we're okay, that we will be all right if we go to the Mountain West, we could dominate. We may not be able to afford Jonathan Smith if we go to the Mountain West.
First of all, you're not going to go to the Mountain West because that's a stupid thing.
I hope you're right, but
what they would do is backfill the pack. Just for anybody who doesn't understand this, and some people don't know this. There's a thing. The Power 5 is a fake term. It's a fake, stupid media term. The real term is A5. It means Autonomy 5. There are 5 conferences that are granted legislative special powers by the NCAA. And they are the ACC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12. And so the Pac-12 is one of those 5 conferences that has special powers. So the Pac-12 isn't going to go anywhere. Teams would, even in your worst DEFCON 1 scenario that, the doofuses from Arizona websites like to talk about or whatever, you're going to have the Pac-12 continue to exist. And I know that will cause a stroke to the other doofus who writes a blog or whatever in, I don't know if it's Oklahoma or Nebraska or whatever, that's always talking about the death of the Pac-12 and these.
I think it's a Baylor guy.
Well, there's a bunch of them that just are idiots that literally don't understand basic concepts of how conferences work. So what you would see actually, even in the DEFCON scenario, they would backfill the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 has special legislative powers that other conferences don't have, and that schools want to be a part of. So
now, even if the 4 corners go to the Big 12 and Stanford, Cal, Oregon, Washington go to the Big 10, that leaves Wazzu and us.
First of all, you're probably not going to see that happen, because the Big Ten's probably not going to take the other 4 schools.
I think I look at Twitter too much.
Yeah, you do look at exactly, because that's really not likely to happen. Quite honestly, the math on the Big Ten, they're pretty clear about that, so it's probably not going to happen. The other thing is that, first of all, Oregon is not going anywhere with Oregon right now is presidentless, and the interim president of Oregon is not going to take you guys. Is not going to go anywhere other than the Big Ten, and the Big Ten isn't going to take Oregon, so Oregon's not going anywhere. Cal, Stanford, you guys, Washington are all right now kind of locked together, and you're not going to go anywhere. The other thing is people forget, Arizona State, they want to hang out with AAU schools. How many AAU schools are in the Big 12? One.
Yeah.
One, and it's one who's hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
You guys, you want your conglomeration of AAU schools teamed up together in Oregon,
we
and
have the research.
Again, it's a silly thing. Don't listen to these Twitter nitwits.
Well, the Big 12 is on defense, and they've been scared ever since Texas, Oklahoma left. But their situation is not our situation. You have to look at it as a whole. I think the West Coast time slot is huge. I think the better schools. We could stick with 10. I don't want them trying to steal San Diego State. We might need to jump on that. Maybe Fresno. This is all. So we don't. People don't want to hear this. This is football season back.
Yeah, exactly. We got
Beavs
games
back.
But the big thing, the Beavs are back, and I'll tell you again, the stuff that a lot of you are hearing is doofus stuff. A lot of it's idiots who are hoping, and some there's some PTSD in a few of the fan communities. Let me just be real clear that when we talk about these idiots, we're not talking about Baylor, we're not talking about West Virginia, because you don't hear it from those two. You hear it from some of the lesser programs and schools that don't have a lot of history. West Virginia is
scared.
They're scared, and they also are kind of bitter because every one of them tried to join the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 said no. Literally all 12. So
Sure,
it's just
people watching don't like us right now.
Remember, certain areas of the country don't like the West Coast anyway.
Yeah,
and they don't like New York. The difference is New York doesn't care, and the West Coast cares a little bit.
Oregon is so beautiful.
And they're so nice. The people are so nice. Maybe not on Twitter.
Northwest,
Actually, no.
California.
Let's be honest. Oregon Twitter Spaces, that's a scary place.
I know. Well, the Duck fans, they're more of a they're a big brand with a bunch of loud people that like the colors and played NCAA football. I don't think most of those fans who are talking shit are from Oregon. Not Ryan Winter's a perfect example. He's a great guy.
I think
we
you're
need to
right.
get him on here. Can we get Ryan Winter on here?
We should get Ryan Winter on here. I think we should next week. Let's try it. We have the Stanford tree. Why don't we get Ryan Winter?
Yeah, he's a great second guest. Those two guests back to back to start the show.
It'd be awesome.
Come on.
Now, I tried to see if we could get Puddles, but I'm told that Puddles and Benny are more Instagram style than Twitter style.
Yeah, I don't know who's the Benny for right now. I graduated already, so
yeah, like Benny with a chainsaw would actually be kind of awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
maybe we should just try getting a Duck fan to call in at some point.
Do we know any Duck fans?
I think Eric has been in hiding.
Yeah, where is it? Actually, I think Eric's at work right now. Unfortunately, which is too bad.
He works nights.
Yeah, we could use some Eric. We could use some Eric. We're short. Eric, we're summoning you.
Well, before I go finish my dinner, last week I called of course, yeah. Search. But a couple people were saying so, and I know I've overstayed my welcome, but last week I did a score prediction on air, and I was scared to say a 3-score win, but that's how I felt, and I think I ended up going with 31-17, and it was 34-17. So I'm gonna try again.
Tell us.
I'm going to go 45 because it's going to be close and we have to score more to 31. 2-score game this time.
2-score game? I like it. Let's go, Beebs.
Go, Beebs.
Hey, thanks Connor. We'll see you.
Until next time. Cheers, fellas.
Hey guys, just, if you could do us a favor to help grow the show, please take a second to hit the like button. It only takes a second, and it really would help us grow the show.
We do, and guys, we really appreciate. Thank you, guys. I mean, there's been a bunch of you, and you've been with us for like this whole time. It really means a lot to us. We really appreciate it. You know, we kind of do this for fun, so we really appreciate you guys spending the evening with us.
Speaking of fun, who's this guy?
You said you wanted a Duck fan. Well, here, quack, 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 quack.
Quack, quack, quack. The #1 fan of the Miami Ducks.
Yeah, you got it right here, man. What a great show you guys got going. Tony, I am like in awe over what you're doing with these graphics, and you're making the rest of us look bad.
Far from
it. I mean, gee whiz. I come in, I'm watching the show. I'm like, you got all these cool graphics coming up. It looks all organized. This is like the second show of the Pac-12 show, and it's already like blowing everything out of the water. Jesus Christ, man. Come on now.
We appreciate having you. We try to make it fun. We try to, give folks some laughs and have some chuckles. And like I said, we're real excited. We've got coming up on a special show on Friday. The Stanford Tree is going to be live to chat about all things football, esports, Stanford, trees, the world's wildest band. It's going to be a good time.
I know. I saw that on Twitter. I was like, you were like trolling the Stanford Tree, and I thought we were going to have to get serious on the Stanford Tree for a minute. I thought I was going to have to go. I thought I was going to have to go full like troll on Stanford Tree, but then you said, "Oh, the Stanford Tree is actually coming on," and I was like, "Oh, thank God," because the Stanford Tree's got a pretty good troll game, and I was I was actually doing my push-ups and stuff, getting ready for that one. So.
Yeah, one of the USC beat reporters, very funny enough, just admitted defeat from the Stanford Tree and just posted on Twitter, guys, I just got owned by a tree on Twitter.
I mean, the tree's been fighting with the New York State building. The tree has been fighting with who was the other person the tree just took down?
There's so many. I don't even know.
Not person, but like there was something else besides the New York State building. And I was like, yeah, I really don't want to go to battle with this guy. So I'm so glad he came on because I was ready to go to battle for you, Tony. I was ready.
It is. Yeah. If you try to take on the tree on Twitter, you're going to have an easier time taking the beach in Normandy than taking on the tree.
No, I was looking forward to the challenge, but that's all I'm saying about that. But I really love the show you guys are doing. I've been watching from the moment you started till now, reading the chats. It's been fun.
Thanks. And thank you guys in the chat too. We've had a great fun discussion here in the chats. I love it. Dodger. We will get Dr. Rice later in the time. I actually sort of used to work for her. I used to work with U.S. embassies, and she's a really, really, whether you agree with her politically or not, and there's a lot of things we disagree on, but she's a really, really neat lady, brilliant, and has been a phenomenal force for good of good stuff at Stanford. She's also, one of the first females admitted to Augusta National, so she's kind of a badass with a green jacket. So we'll hopefully get her there. That's not too far from UTF.
Right. Well, one of the smartest things I've found is to leave any of that kind of nonsense behind and talk about college football, because that's why we're all here together.
Dr. Rice has always said that and in fact, when President Bush appointed her, he said, "I'm appointing her Secretary of State because I can't give her the job she really wants, which is commissioner of the NFL."
Right, exactly. And she's, a very wonderful woman.
Yeah, big football fan.
So. Exactly. A very cool person.
That's what we need. We need more football fans.
Speaking of football, famous Stanford alums, Gary Lewis says Jim Plunkett's on social. Reach out to him. Cool dude.
Oh, we should.
I would love that. Ex-Raider.
Jim Plunkett would be awesome.
Heisman Trophy winner, right? He won a Heisman at Stanford, didn't he?
I think so. I think he did.
Help me out, chat. I don't know.
Did he? We think he did.
I thought he did. Anyway.
So let me ask you guys one question.
TF is hosting Mark Rogers' Voice of College Football Miami post games this year. And as you guys know, the Trojans are back and the Huskies are back. And also the U is back.
Well, yes. I mean, Tony's right there with me. And I know all you people are going to hate me now, but yes. So let's go away from that. This is a Pac-12 show, so we will stay away from that as far as possible. But now I just came on here actually to tell you guys what a good job you were doing and how much I was enjoying watching this show. And I'm not a Pac-12 guy. I noticed JW came on here and told you all about how he appreciated watching your Pac-12 show earlier.
That was so kind of him. We really appreciated it.
But I won't hold you up. I just wanted to come on and say great show, guys. I'll still be in the chat hanging out.
Thanks,
watching.
We'll look forward to seeing you on Friday for the Stanford Tree, and then Friday night for some trivia.
Oh, and by the way, on that, if I could take 2 seconds, Friday night on trivia is going to be on Pigskin Pete's channel.
Oh, even better. We love
but that is his 24-hour live stream on Pigskin Pete's channel for his 5,000 subscribers. So,
well, that's exciting.
We will be doing trivia there. So we got to figure that out, do some logistics. So Tony, Tim,
we'll chat.
Yeah, text me tomorrow so we can make all this happen.
Cool. Fight on,
guys. All right, love you guys, and love the show. And everybody, make sure you hit that thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to this channel because it is awesome. We'll see you guys later. Love you.
See you later, Jeff. Thanks again.
Yeah, Charlie Fools, make sure you drop your link. Also, he's got a great travel channel. If you guys like watching great videos, especially you guys like tropical locations, make sure you hit up his. Hopefully, he'll put it in the chat, but make sure you check out his channel.
All right, well, guys, we are hitting about 2 hours here, which is I figured we'd go an hour, so I can't believe we went over again. And that's because of you guys. We're really glad to have you guys spend some time with us and spend some time chatting about the Pac-12. And I really want to give a special thank you to the folks who are fans of like JW, like everybody else who's called in tonight and who's joined us, who aren't necessarily Pac-12 fans, but are just love to chat football and understand that there are really, really neat institutions with neat fan bases and neat traditions on the West Coast. And, we love having you guys watch those teams. I went to school on the East Coast, I went to school on the West Coast. They're pretty different. But there's great people everywhere. And we really appreciate your sharing the night with us. So, Tim, as we wrap up, any final words for the folks? Or as I start with Chris?
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Looking forward to the week, and thanks everybody for hanging out.
And Chris, to your Bruin community, on behalf of the whole conference, I think it's safe to say, really cool thing happening this weekend with UCLA hosting Alabama State. Can't wait to see the Marching Hornets in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Now, just don't do the most Pac-12 thing ever and lose that game, okay?
That's not possible.
We would hope so. It would be the most Pac-12 thing ever, though, for you to go like undefeated and lose only that game. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see USC play, at a P5 school, to see if what we saw last Saturday can be replicated against, again, P5 athletes. I think it might be. And again, I'm also really excited to watch and see if Arizona can keep it going. I know they got a tough task, but I would love to see them show out and hopefully come with a victory. But if not, just show the SEC that we could ball out here on the West Coast, and they get their shot. Utah did a good job. Oregon's maybe a couple away, but this is one more opportunity for the conference to stand up and say, hey, maybe you should take us a little bit seriously. So really interested to see that game as well.
Well, I agree. And again, on behalf of everybody with Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football channel, we want to thank you guys for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you hopefully on Friday. It looks like it's going to be about 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific for our special USC pregame with the Stanford Tree. And Tim and I will also be live on Mark's channel when the USC game ends after the Stanford games. We hope you'll join us. Thank you guys really, truly from the bottom of our hearts for spending a couple hours with us tonight. And we'll see you soon. Fight on, Pac-12.